Joining me now from Washington is Roll Call columnist John Allen. John, thanks for taking the time.
Hi, Meg.
So Governor Haley, we all know, accused Trump of irresponsible talk during the primaries. Trump responded by saying the people of South Carolina were embarrassed by Haley. What do you make of this pick for you, an ambassador?
I mean, of all the people he had fights with on the campaign trail, those are some of the mildest words that he had for her and she had for him. I think this is a great pick for him for a variety of reasons. He needed to diversify his cabinet to some extent. We were hearing about a lot of white men, so I think it's helpful to him on that score. But I think more important than that, Nikki Haley has, as he has talked about, shown a proven ability to lead as governor of South Carolina. And from her perspective, she's going to get something very valuable in the political space that is difficult to attain, which is foreign policy experience. So there are a lot of governors that run for president, a lot of senators that run for president that don't really have that balancing out their expertise on domestic policy. So from her perspective, if she's looking at making a run for president sometime in the future, and I think she may be, this is a good opportunity to add some bona fides.
Well, we have heard that for years, that she could be the leader of the GOP party in years to come. So we will wait and see on that. Let's talk about Mitt Romney. He was another big vocal critic of the president-elect. He is now under consideration for Secretary of State. He was fiercely critical during the campaign. Is this just the way politics goes? Rhetoric on the trail, peacemaking after the win?
A little bit. It's interesting. It's somewhat like the Obama-Clinton model, where you take the person in your party who has the greatest standing to oppose you internally after the election and cast them out into the world. Make sure that they don't have anything to do with domestic politics. I think that may have something to do with it. And of course, Mitt Romney, I think, is somebody who will be respected around the world as a Secretary of State, certainly a familiar face. People are comfortable with him, somebody who's negotiated a lot in his life. So, that is a pick that makes sense. And for Trump, somebody who is sometimes criticized for being a my way or the highway kind of guy, I think it would be interesting to pick somebody who had been an internal critic.
Let's talk about the meeting between Trump and the New York Times on Tuesday. The president-elect seemed to walk back a number of positions he campaigned on. He's keeping an open mind about climate change, is second-guessing the use of torture on terrorism suspects, and dropped his call to prosecute Hillary Clinton. How surprising is all of this to you?
Not at all. I mean, I think we've all learned that we shouldn't have expectations of Donald Trump because they will always be dashed. This is a candidate who, if he ran on this platform that he is now talking about in the interview with the New York Times, never would have made it through the Republican primary, much less the general election. So he is signaling, I think, that he's going to govern differently than he campaigned. And I think what the American people can do, whether they voted for him or not, is simply judge him on the merits of his actions when they come.
In that same meeting, Trump also responded to a question about alt-right supporters, saying, quote, "It's not a group I want to energize." Trump has been criticized for going after the Hamilton cast and SNL on Twitter, but remaining silent on these alt-right groups praising him. What do you make of that?
Well, I think he wanted to energize them during the campaign, and now that he's president of the United States and he realizes that they could add to the division or potentially increase the chances of anger, if not violence, then I think he would prefer for them to not be energized. He doesn't need that headache.
John, before you go, we want to ask you about Trump's transition team. They say that we could see a cabinet-level announcement later today. It could be Ben Carson for housing and urban development. He posted on Facebook, quote, "After serious discussions with the Trump transition team, I feel that I can make a significant contribution, particularly to making our inner cities great for everyone." What would Dr. Carson bring to this position?
Nothing. In terms of experience or know-how or expertise, I suppose it's better to put a neurosurgeon in charge of housing than an urban planner in charge of neurosurgery. But this is not somebody who has any apparent qualification for being in charge of housing and urban development policy, other than having lived in at least one city before.
All right, John Allen, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Take care.